6:23 right now. It's not uncommon to change careers once, twice, or even a few times, but one little man's path of professions is anything but ordinary.
He now works for JCPS, serving the district's highest needed schools. In this week's edition of Our 5 Questions, you'll learn about his unique and unlikely journey getting there. GMK's Sarah Wagner has his 5 answers.
In a way, this nameplate on Marco Munoz's desk represents a full circle moment. He started out in medical school, but ended up becoming a different doctor. It's the job he picked up in between, though, that makes his resume even more rare.
A Jesuit priest, yes.
Marco traded in a stethoscope to study spirituality, leaving his native Nicaragua for Panama. After several years, fate stepped in yet again, changing Marco's path one more time.
Basically what happened is that I met this beautiful woman by the name of Maria, and she shared the same kind of desires of service to our people.
Marco and Maria got married and have 2 kids, turning this former future father into a parent instead of a pastor.
So I thought, I can still do good for other people without having to be a priest.
Marco later came to the United States on the very prestigious Fulbright Scholarship. He got his doctorate from U of L and started working with JCPS in 1999, becoming the director of priority schools about a year ago.
In a way, it's kind of similar at the work that I have been doing all my life, which is trying to see how is it that I can help the highest need.
For a man who's worked several very different jobs in his life, his dream one other than this is very similar.
It would be a classroom teacher, like just being with kids, being responsible for my 120, 150 kids. It will allow me to just focus on them.
Serving others, always central to Marco's life, which makes his next answer no surprise.
The owl, because I think that some of this work requires being thoughtful.
A quality Marco has mastered, leading us to this next bit of wisdom.
Many times we see lots of wonderful people out there, but if we start replicating them, then we are no longer like who we are. And I really, truly believe that all of us come with a gift. But the only way that we can share that gift with other people is like being ourselves in the first place.
Marco has helped so many for so long and hopes that's how he's remembered when it's all said and done.
Right now I have about 16,000 kids that in a way I feel responsible for. My legacy in JCPS is going to be that there was someone out there that with a beautiful Kentucky accent that was trying to do something better for them.
Sarah Wagner, WHAS 11 News.
6:10 right now, and it's a milestone to retire, but even more impressive to do it more than just one time. In this week's edition of 5 Questions, you'll meet a bus driver who has switched companies several times, but always kept the same career. GMK Morning Brew's Sarah Wagner has the story.
It's a typical start to the day at the Tark garage. From one end to the other, driver Eunice Roughton makes sure her bus is in tip-top shape. Much like public transportation, this driver's name has been around for centuries.
My grandmother was Eunice Roughton, and my aunt, her daughter, she named her Eunice Roughton. So and I've got a genealogy that goes back to the 1400s. So it really came from England a long time ago.
At 64 years young, this Army veteran has lived a very full life. She worked for Greyhound for 28 years, but learned her best bit of advice on day 1 of training.
I got a cup of coffee, and on a sugar pack, it said, if you try to do something and fail, you're vastly better off than if you try to do nothing and succeed. And that has been my motto ever since.
She drove a school bus for a few years before parking that position and picking up a spot at Tark.
It was the best move I ever made in my life.
There are a few rules to follow when you ride and drive a city bus. Eunice would add one more to the list.
Listen to your intuitions, because they tell you a lot.
If Eunice could be any animal, she'd pick the one or the hundreds that power the very buses she drives.
a horse. They're beautiful, they're majestic, and just spirited.
For a woman who's made travel central to her life, it's no surprise she'd take a trip again if she got the chance.
Well, I spent like 9 months in Germany. That was an awesome time with the Army. I would like to go back to that.
Eunice drives people from all walks of life. She treats them all the same and hopes that example makes its way around to others.
Love, compassion, and understanding. We need people that understands that not everybody has the same opportunities.
It's safe to say driving is her passion.
I would say 35 years. I would say so. That's a good assessment.
A profession she'll always treasure, especially when she retires for good.
I'm ready to, what's that song say? The next living is the next thing on my list. That's what I want to do.
Sarah Wagner, WHAS 11 News.
645, she served her country during World War II and has continued to help those in need ever since.
In this week's edition of 5 Questions, you'll meet a Louisville lady whose spirit is sure to leave you inspired. Our Sarah Wagner has her 5 answers.
From the pictures to the pillows, every inch of her house screams Norma Lewis.
And I am 94, and I'll be 95 in June.
She may have 9 decades under her belt, but she'd go back to the beginning if she became an animal.
It's a toss-up between a kitten or a puppy, because people always love kittens and puppies.
That unconditional goodness, something Norma thinks the world could use a little more of.
We don't have enough love, and I'm serious. I don't mean la love. I mean just really love, to care for each other.
Compassion, a quality instilled in this lovely lady from a very young age.
My aunt and uncle were deaf, and they raised me, and that's how I learned sign language. And I was the in-house interpreter.
A skill she took far beyond those 4 walls.
I became a professional interpreter, and I think I'm the oldest living one now in the United States, except that now I can't say that I'm the oldest one still working, because I just retired about 2 weeks ago.
That downtime giving her the chance to reflect on other parts of her resume.
My family did not want me to go into the military. And they said that nice girls and good girls do not go in the military.
But Norma figured great girls do, so she joined the Navy, serving during World War II.
We just were very, very patriotic. We all wanted to do our bit.
A time she still treasures dearly, especially because it let her go to college, making her the first in her family to do so.
I went to many schools, and everybody kept saying, "What are you going to be when you get out of college?" I said, "A very old woman."
She finally graduated in her 80s, majoring in journalism, although she says she'd pick up a different degree to land her dream job.
I loved the theater. I forgot about that. I liked it, because you could be anybody. It was wonderful. And I was anybody.
Regardless of the role she's playing, her spirit and spunk always stay the same.
I guess I'm just a ham.
Sarah Wagner, WHAS 11 News.
646, she's worked at the nation's capital and now helps keep Louisville up and running.
In this week's edition of our 5 Questions series, you'll meet one of Mayor Fisher's right-hand women. GMK's Sarah Wagner has her 5 answers.
Plenty of movers and shakers call Louisville's Metro Hall home.
This is Emily.
Emily Lundeen moved in 6 years ago and serves as the executive assistant to the mayor's chief of staff.
It's helping citizens, it's learning about your city, it's helping advance whatever project or whatever complaint that a citizen may have that you're trying to address. There's so many different things that you can do and have your hands on in this line of work.
A job focused on working towards the greater good is fitting for a gal whose name was born out of a compromise.
My mom wanted to go with Emma. I don't think my dad was such a big fan in 1985, and so they combined both the first name of my great-grandmother, the middle name of my grandmother, to come up with Emily.
From working for a Democratic congressman in D.C. to former Governor Beshear to Mayor Fisher, Emily's professional and political world may be donkey-dominated, but she'd pick another four-legged friend if given the chance.
So my husband and I have a cat, and he's 7, and he has a great life. Like, we feed him, he sleeps, we give him water from the faucet because he loves running water. So, you know, why not be the cat who has it all?
Emily is no doubt a woman of the people, but it's one person in particular she considers her biggest accomplishment.
I'm going to go ahead and say my son, because that's so brand new to me, but he's amazing and gives me a different perspective on the world.
A life of public service can take you all over the place, but it's one spot Emily prefers most of all.
My favorite place in the world is a farm back home in Glasgow, where I'm from. It is a farm of very, very close friends who are almost like family. My husband and I got married on their farm, and it's gorgeous, and there's nothing really beats fresh air and rolling hills and green and some cows and some hay thrown in.
Her office may be a few hours away from the farm, but Emily brings that sense of serenity to the job each and every day.
All right, thanks. Yeah.
Sarah Wagner, WHAS 11 News.